Being hired as an actor in the MCU is something many aspiring actors covet, but it has also been given a very quiet bad name by a few actors who have butted heads with the studio. Where the blame lays is up to you guys to decide for yourself in the comments, as we at Where Are They Now tell you all about the top 10 actors Marvel wish they never hired. Number 10. Terrence Howard. Don't get me wrong here, I do really like Don Cheadle in general, but especially as Rhodey, but I can't lie, I was a little upset that Terrence Howard dropped out of this one. The problem here is one most MCU fans are well aware of, and it has to do with money. According to the Oscar-nominated actor, he was paid $3.5 million to play Rhodey with the promise of an additional $5 million more if the first movie generated a sequel. On top of that, Howard has said that he took a cut of around $1 million just to sweeten the deal when Marvel was on the fence about Robert Downey Jr. Now with the planned sequel of Iron Man 2, Howard was being offered $8 million on his 3-picture contract that then got whittled down to around $1 million as RDJ was now asking for a pay increase. Howard says he finally backed out of the deal and the role went to Don Cheadle instead. Howard told a live TV interview, "It turns out that the person I helped become Iron Man when it was time to re-up for the second one took the money that was supposed to go to me and pushed me out." And he has called the situation a $100 million loss for him. But since then, Howard has moved on, made up with RDJ, kept working, and he seems to have moved on, even going back and getting a doctorate in chemical engineering. Number 9. Edward Norton. This is another one most MCU fans are well aware of. Before even RDJ became Iron Man, there was Hulk, and he looked quite a bit different, because he was a different person. Edward Norton was the MCU's original Bruce Banner, but he clearly did not stay. Unlike the Iron Man debacle, this one has more to do with creative differences. Edward Norton wanted to play Banner as a troubled, serious character, while Marvel was hoping for a lighter, funnier character more along the lines of something like Tony Stark. Honestly, I kinda think Norton was right here. If you know the comic book character of Bruce Banner, then I think you'd agree too, but alas. In addition, Norton insisted on rewriting the script daily as he went along. The studio went along with it, but then reportedly cut all of his additions from the final version. There were also reports Norton demanded to be allowed to take part in the editing process as well, but Kevin Feige said no, and the actor then refused to do anything to help promote the film. Obviously, Edward Norton is perfectly fine without being part of the MCU, being an incredible actor with tons of work to show it. There was a bit of shade thrown around, particularly from Feige and Norton's agent, but despite that, Norton said last year that he would be down with an MCU return. Maybe as a baddie, maybe I'll write my own. I don't know, I'm open to everything. I kinda have my doubts. Number 8. Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow has been deep in a pool of her own controversy outside of any kind of Marvel beef, and she doesn't really have a huge amount of beef with the studio at all. She just kind of wasn't all too thrilled with acting in Marvel movies, and she said she mainly did it as a favor for her friend Jon Favreau. In another interview, talking about playing the character still, she even said, "I don't think I like it anymore." That was before her subsequent appearances in Infinity War and Endgame. Honestly, looking back on it all, you can kind of tell, as in the Iron Man movie specifically, she sort of lacked on-screen chemistry with Tony Stark, and I mean, Pepper Potts didn't really become her own character outside of Tony's obvious love interest. During a 2016 interview with Entertainment Tonight, Paltrow admitted that she was sort of done with acting and didn't like it anymore. She was not even sure what Marvel movies she was contracted to appear in as Pepper Potts. That's how detached she was. It happens, I guess. Number 7. Mickey Rourke. It seems that Marvel had to stumble a bit before it found its footing. Iron Man 2 seemed to be one of those stumbles. Outside of the recasting of James Rhodes, there was the film's main antagonist, Ivan Vanko, played by Mickey Rourke. Apparently there was a bit of a creative difference here as well, but Marvel did also lowball the actor when they first offered the role. That issue was left behind, but Rourke thought that Vanko should be a multi-dimensional bad guy with a relatable side, and he even spent time in Russian prisons getting a handle on both the accent and the role. Marvel didn't seem to want this. Jon Favreau and Justin Theroux, the writers of the movie, apparently added the color that Rourke was looking for, but in the editing room, according to Mickey, most of that added dimension was left on the cutting room floor. This caused Rourke to heavily regret taking the role. While speaking to Screen Rant, Rourke revealed that he hated the fact that this character was portrayed as one-dimensional, and in another interview, he added that if Marvel wanted to make mindless comic movies, then he would not be a part of it. I kind of wonder what Iron Man 2 would have been like if they had went with it. Number 6. Christopher Eccleston. We're still talking about the earlier days of Marvel here, but this time we are moving to Asgard. While the first Thor movie was pretty well received from most people, minus Hemsworth's bleached eyebrows, as with a lot of blockbusters, the sequel failed to follow up. In fact, it's regarded as one of the worst Marvel films. Unfortunately, that is partially something to do with its main antagonist, Malekith. From The Leftovers to Gone in 60 Seconds and even being one of the best Doctor Who's, Christopher Eccleston has worked on a wide range of projects and has been pretty fantastic in all of them. But he wasn't particularly happy with playing Malekith in Thor: The Dark World, and it kind of showed. Eccleston had zero energy or intensity in the role of Malekith. Rumor has it that Eccleston did the movie almost solely for the paycheck, and he has also accused the studio of lying about the amount of work involved, specifically the 8 hours of makeup work. It just seems a shame because the movie might have succeeded with a better villain. Might. Number 5. Natalie Portman. Carrying on with Thor: The Dark World for a sec, it seems to me that many of the actors who seem to not really get along with Marvel had their characters done pretty dirty. And usually in some of the MCU's worst films too. Natalie Portman, who played Jane Foster in the Thor movies as an example. In the second Thor movie, Thor: The Dark World, Natalie's character was really whittled down to just a doe-eyed love interest for Chris Hemsworth's Thor. She received no character development of any kind. That kind of treatment of one's character can be draining and even upsetting, especially when you're an actor of such a high caliber used to delivering nuanced, deep roles. Another part of that movie's failure, and Natalie's disappointment, may come from the fact that the original director was Patty Jenkins, who later directed the fantastic Wonder Woman movies. Natalie was excited to work with this great director, and when that opportunity was taken, it changed things. Portman was pretty obviously missing from sequels and other MCU films until recently, likely because of this movie. Number 4. Hugo Weaving. Now this is more like an actor who wished they never took on the role they did. Or, at the very least, Hugo Weaving did not want to return. Weaving stated that as much as he was glad to play the role of Red Skull, it was not something he would want to do again, as that was not the sort of film he sought out or was excited about. In an interview with Collider, he had said, "It's not something I would want to do again. I did sign up for a number of pictures and I suppose, contractually, I would be obliged to, if they forced me to, but they wouldn't want to force someone to do it if they didn't want to. I think I've done my dash with that sort of film." He was asked to reprise the role in Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, but they wanted to pay him less than his Captain America salary for both movies combined, and on this note, he told Time Out, "I actually found negotiating with them through my agent impossible, and I didn't really want to do it that much." As some people know, he did not return for those movies, with Ross Marquand providing his voice instead. Number 3. Dylan Casey. Stepping away from Marvel's movies for a bit here, Dylan Casey played Will Daniels, aka Hive, on 2 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Unfortunately, Dylan also had a substance issue, which reportedly contributed directly to bad on-set behavior. He told the Toronto Star, "I was a 31-year-old man crying and yelling at work. This was bottom and there was no coming back." Unfortunately, he got a call that his character was being taken out of the series the next episode. He explained to production that he was going through a difficult time and said he didn't blame them for giving his character the axe, and that he would, quote, "do the same thing." On the positive side of things though, Dylan has since entered into rehabilitation in 2018 and is now fully sober. On that topic he said, "I'm proud of myself, but I'm angry and shocked at what I was capable of doing. I'm physically healed but still have some emotional work to do. It's hard to put the pieces together. What I do know is that I passed through the eye of a needle and not everyone gets to do that." Number 2. Dave Bautista. Now, to say that Marvel never wished that they hired Dave Bautista is mostly a straight-faced lie. He was an absolute fan favorite as Drax the Destroyer, and he's incredibly nice. But what I'm sure they didn't expect so much was the intensity with which Bautista came to the defense of James Gunn when he was fired from directing Guardians of the Galaxy. He has said in interviews that because of the firing, things got really, quote, fractious between him and the studio. Obviously things have been mended since and James Gunn has been rehired, but imagining the usually lovely 6'4", 290-pound Dave Bautista coming into your office either angry or even somewhat bothered to give you a hard time about firing someone, I'm kinda sweating just thinking about it. Number 1. Finn Jones. Finn Jones played Iron Fist in the Marvel Netflix show, but the lack of diversity in the show led to Twitter drama which Jones jumped headlong into. He tweeted asking people not to judge the show unless they had actually seen it, and he also claimed that of all the Marvel Netflix shows, including Luke Cage, that his show was the most diverse. He then quit Twitter a week later. Now a lot of actors in Marvel projects put up with all kinds of flack. There is always someone who doesn't like what you do, or they may not even like the project you're a part of as a whole. Sometimes for reasons that may not make sense. In this day and age, taking to Twitter to fight the battle, while understandable, just doesn't seem to be the best answer long term for celebrities of any kind. Sometimes it's best to just take the L. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. This is all the time we have for today. I'm Adam Andrews. This is Where Are They Now? Stay safe and well informed out there.